Hey, what's up guys, it's MagGamesGX here, and we're gonna make a Genesys branded video. We haven't done this in a few days. I kind of want to talk about what Konami should be doing for branded in the next list. I want to say branded just got a structure deck that is incentivizing a lot of new players to get into the game, and the fact that Konami just basically nuked branded on the Genesys list means that you just made a product that people will buy less of. They should be adjusting it back, because if we go to all the tournament decks from because now since my last video talking about this, we've had the last two, or we had the YCS Pittsburgh Invitational, and let's go through literally every single list. Every single list has Punk is one of the best decks right now. It has 85 points to spend on non-engine. That is a lot, right? So, and it's easily one of the best decks. Still gets to run a ton of different extra deck options, really good non-engines and Ash like Ghost, Ogre, Nibiru, DD Crow. Droll is something that I could see. I think Droll is basically a staple in Genesys. You're not able to run Droll, your deck is, in my opinion, just not going to be good going second into a lot of decks. So if your deck can't run Droll, it's just already an issue. And we can see here with branded, all of your points are allocated into basically Cartesia as a branded fusion, and then your extra deck targets, because Konami decided to give Fallen and the Virtuous. They chose to balance it by hitting all of the targets. So essentially, any fusion monster that mentions Fallen of Albaz now is just pointed out, or just has points on it. Even like Brigand, which is just like one of the worst targets for a Albaz send, now has points, because if it's sent to the graveyard in the end phase, you can search a Tri-Brigade or a Fallen of Albaz, which if you're going to use this in a Dogmatic deck, like summoning that Albaz is not going to be, like, it's going to be like one of the okay plays of the deck. So, the fact that branded has 0 non-engine room is an issue, right? Like, we have Distant Coder's list here. This is Archmage. Archmage is one of the best decks in the format. It should be getting hit soon. Elven Note support that Medius will get points eventually. But at the moment, you literally have no points, and it's another fusion deck just like branded, right? Like, it can go second, it can break boards, it can run really good things. Like, this build to run Grand Guignol, and maybe that's like why they put points on Grand Guignol, because quote-unquote other decks can use it. However, when you consider all these things, look at how much non-engine. 3 Nib, 3 Droll, 2 Ghost Mourner, 3 Ogre, 3 DD Crow. Like, all these decks that topped the latest Invitational for Genesys, right? Like, you had to win a 4-round pod, and now you go into this top 32, basically, and play it out, right? For $10,000 worth of prizing. You have to have non-engine. Dracotal ended up winning it. I think this is the second place. And yeah, no, this was actually very similar to the list that won our Mercurier Monthly, which is very funny. Dracotal ended up winning our tournament, which kind of precursed, like, it is the best deck right now. And guess what? Dracotal gets to, I mean, maybe obviously they will get pointed a bit more now that it's like basically the best deck of the format. However, I think that even then it still has the room to run 3 Droll. Once again, I think that if this deck did not have the ability to run Droll, I think it would be far worse, frankly. And that's probably maybe where they're going to go with the next hit. However, I do think that they might have, like, however, this just shows that your deck needs to be able to run Droll in order to, like, just have to be able to play at a high level in this format. We have Radiant Typhoon. This is JarridYGO on YouTube. Shout out to him, man. I love his videos. The whole he gets to run 3 Dominus Purge, 2 Droplet, Ghost Mourner, Mirage and Nightmare is 0 points now, and then he sides Troll, sides Nib. Like, that's crazy having room to side cards like this. And obviously they just put some points on Totem Bird, but that doesn't really do a whole lot at 3 points. They hit branded so hard, and then, like, they'll get into the next point where they're just hitting decks that are unproportionally winning the game, or winning Genesys, versus the decks that are actually winning, which is an issue. And so we can go Super Quant. Let's see. The whole Super Quant engine is completely unpointed. This is what I'm saying. Like, when this is the case for these decks that have topped regionals in the TCG, like, yes, branded is a bit better on average, but let's look at branded. Once again, 40 points in branded fusion. Fallen the Virtuous is already pointed out at 15 in this build, right? Like, you can't even run Fallen the Virtuous in branded, which is crazy to me, right? Like, this is a branded card, and is literally pointed out from even using the new card at 1. I would love to run Fallen the Virtuous, maybe like have this option over 3 Droll, right? Or something like that. Like, especially when they point out Droll, probably next list, but this is currently pointed out. So, and then once again, all your, like, you can't even run Tight Clad anymore. Dogma, yes, Dogma's 10, or it's a towers, so I can understand this being pointed on some level, but I think the points are completely unproportional, right? They're at 10. 10 or 20, right? Like, Albion being at 20 is also just, I think, a huge issue for the deck right now. When every other card is at 10, why is Albion not at 10 and it's at 20? I get you can search any card, and this is the card that can search Fallen the Virtuous, but guess what the solution to this is? You point Fallen the Virtuous, right? Like, make Fallen the Virtuous 50 points, or at that point. I would just prefer Branded to be playable than Fallen the Virtuous being played in the deck, right? At the moment, you have to remove Branded Fusion to even run Fallen Virtuous, and I'm sorry, but like the non-branded Fusion branded builds are horrible going around in Genesys right now. Like, it's not competitively viable. Someone who, you know, I got top 25 on DB last format with branded, with pure branded too, not even pure branded Draco, not even branded Draco, but, and I ran Droll in my build. I think I could have done without Droll, because you guys saw the single topping branded list, the single official topping branded list was, I think, a top 8 list at the South American YCS that happened before Pittsburgh. They ran Book of Eclipse over Droll. I don't like that personally, but Eclipse is damn good non-engine. But you can't even make that decision now, right? I think, like, if you had the option to run Book of Eclipse on top of Book of Lunar, I think that would be definitely viable as well. But the main issue, though, for branded is that there's too many points in branded Fusion at 40. This card doesn't even do that much. I do want to just show you guys like a combo on my spreadsheet. This is what a single branded Fusion gets you, right? Branded Fusion doesn't really get you a whole lot anymore. And the fact it's at 40 points, I just feel like there are cards that are worth less that are more powerful at this. Fusion can bridge into a lot of different things, but Branded Fusion on its own is actually a fairly like weak card in this format. So because of especially the points adjustments and this is what I'm doing here, I literally have to run the Draco Tal engine in order to make my 1-card Branded Fusion more than one interrupt option. I go Frixel here, go Albion, set the Draco Tal Flame so that I actually have a spell negate and I can make Lubellion. And, you know, thank God they gave us Lubellion. It was always absurd that we had to play with 3 Albion, 1 Lubellion. That was always like a pretty like poor and once again, new format. So like, we appreciate you, Konami, for what you guys are trying, but I think your guys' choices and with hitting branded wrong, especially in the face of having a new structure deck that new players want to get into your new format to play with the structure decks. Like, I got so many comments of people being like, I just bought 3 structure decks, but they just nerfed branded, just wasted my they got 3 structure decks to play branded in Genesys format because they saw like my video, or they just figured, oh, new structure deck. Like, this is what a single branded Fusion gets with a discard: a non-target banish plus a spell negate. I'm sorry, but this board literally loses to a single breaker in the format plus a starter, right? Like, it is not a good board. And obviously that was 2 cards, but then it's like, okay, so then like apply this logic going second. I'm going to have 4 cards in hand. I'm going to have to deal with a huge board. Those 4 cards, and with things like Thrust, pointed out, you know, with like, how am I dealing with, like, with Super Quants? It's almost like this matchup, I'll have to see Kaiju, and then it's like, how am I cleaning up the rest of the board, right? Like, I don't even have Titan Clad to summon in the end phase because it's pointed out. So I just think, like, the going second for branded is also, like, almost unplayable because of that. Like, against the high-end decks, if you lose die roll on branded, you have, like, a 20-80 matchup, like, 20% chance of winning the game because you can't main good hand traps. If anything, it's like DD Crow, and guys, DD Crow ain't doing anything on its own, right? Like, you should be able to main at least Nib or Droll in your Genesys. I think a standard that the format should have, like, a deck should not have, like, it should have a playable build with at least a little non-engine, essentially. And it's kind of crazy that, like, Branded last format was not one of the like, it was, in my opinion, if you knew how to play Branded, you could play it at a high level in Genesys, which I appreciated, but it was hard. It was still hard. I was still stuck in top 25. Like I was around 800 rating for like very long time, right? Last format, because it wasn't easy to get. We had an unwinnable Vanquish Soul matchup. To be fair, I think most people had an unwinnable Vanquish Soul matchup, but if you didn't run hand traps. But you know, the Droll and Lockbird, or just being able to run non-engine, or not being able to run non-engine now, just took it out, in my opinion. I think we saw JarridYGO's tier list for Genesys, and he put Branded in, like, I think, which is actually kind of like, I think, more generous than I'd give it at the moment, because a lot of people didn't even rate Genesys in the first points adjustment. They were like I love when people just say shit without even not even testing it, right? Like, that's why I dislike kind of tier list culture, because like everyone's making a tier list, and I'm sorry, but not everyone has the credentials to do a tier list, like telling people what the best choices are. And a lot of people were like just adding Branded to don't play it because they saw, oh, then it out like Branded Fusion and Lubellion's unplayable. But that it was, in my opinion, you just picked up the deck and it was playable. It wasn't like, in my opinion, it was like top of B tier, maybe low A last format, if you knew what you were doing, honestly. But now with like, frankly, I feel like Fire King, Goblins, like all these decks are just way more viable than Branded, because you can actually not main non-engine. Like, I think like C goes down to the decks that just have no room for non-engine. I think that I think Doom Z is a better deck, frankly. I think Lunalight's a better deck. I think Eldritch is a better deck at this point. I think you have an like, you can't even main evenly or like really good back row removal. So I think decks like MST and Dracotal and Odeon are basically unwinnable for the deck now, because you don't have like just non-engine to stop them essentially from setting up their whole board, or just like breaking their board outside of like maining Twin Twister, right? So it's just like, in my opinion, it was nice to see someone recognize Branded, but at the moment, in my opinion, I put it top of C tier, maybe bottom of B tier kind of thing, like, because I would take all these B tier decks over Branded at the moment, frankly. I think they're actually far more playable because of that aspect. Like, I just don't like, I don't think it's a good, what makes a good deck in any format is a deck that can't win going second. I like playing Branded because I have the chance to win going second in like Modern, right? Because Modern, I have all this crap, right? This is 1,000 points, but the fact Genesys Branded has absolutely nothing, kind of just like saying what needs to change. How do we change it? I think Branded Fusion goes to 25. I think there's no reason it should be at 40, in my opinion. I think Fallen in the Virtuous should go to 30 at that point, so that this Branded build could actually run both, but then you would have to run the no non-engine. I think you also have to take away point. I think you put Titanclad to 5 and you put Mercourier to 0. There's no point in Mercourier being at 5. I'm sorry, but when Ghost Ogre is 5 and every other hand trap is around, like when Nib and Droll are at 5 and Merc is at 5, like what are we doing? Like, that is one of the, like, okay, the only argument for it is it's non-target negation. I'm sorry, but like, it was the only way to insulate a ended board from a board breaker in this format. You literally took that away from the deck, Konami. Like, like if you just get evenly, you're dead, right? Like, you don't have Mercourier, or just like, you know, several other cards that just can like either get rid of your back row, get rid of your monsters. Mercourier was like a good safe to where like, oh, you could let them go main phase, do their thing, and actually have like Stapelia Mercourier, and then like a Mirror Jade, which is like 3 negates or 3 interruptions, right? It's not even like full negates or anything like that. And to me, when you look at like what Lunalight's doing, right, like setting up double towers like with 0 points essentially, I can't find it right here, but there is, you know, there's this invoked engine. Basically you get to run 3/5 mana right here, right? Like, this looks absolutely insane. this build. So it's just one of those things that I think branded definitely could essentially and I mentioned this point in the last video, but essentially they really fucked up the points for branded, right? Like it was you like our points were 190, like we were at 99 points before, and then the new adjustment list added 100 points to it. You guys nerfed branded by 100% for one top in a YCS. Like, all right, so this is the article I'm referencing where Konami talks about essentially where they like their vision for the format and what happens if you make a deck that's very good. So picture this, you just won the very first Genesys YCS with your own unique strategy that you spent a month designing and testing. It should be one of the greatest moments of your dueling career, and there's a nagging voice in the back of your head that saying that, is my deck about to be costed out of existence? No, a singular breakout performance for a new strategy isn't going to immediately lead to all its key cards winding up with points adjusted to them. Branded just got 10 plus cards adjusted. If the deck gains traction amongst duelists, and more players will pick it up, and it's stuffing the top tables at a few big events, that's something for us to look at. Certain cards will probably start getting point cost. And this was before Fallen the Virtuous even came out, right? Like, you guys did a preventative hit on the deck before the deck, like, not even letting it breathe, right? Because I think people have seen it wasn't the branded decks doing it, right? So I just think it's one of those things, if you guys don't, if you want to stick to this kind of like idea, in my opinion, when branded had a singular top, not even a good top, like frankly, if we're like being honest, not even a good top, right? Like this is a top that essentially was a top 8 of a top 32 tournament, right? Like, and if you look on DB, there wasn't, I think, anyone else above me in season 1 playing just branded. Those points are completely unwarranted, in my opinion. And if you were worried about Fallen and the Virtuous, you would have just pointed out Fallen and the Virtuous. So, in my opinion, and once again, the decks that like point down Nadir Servant, right? Like if you want Dogmatica to be playable, point down Nadir Servant, put Fallen and the Virtuous up, and then it's still playable, right? It'd be cool if I could run the Dogmatica version too, but Branded Fusion being at 40, like Branded Fusion being at 25 would actually be a lot better. Once again, Albion to 10, and you might be like, that's 25 points into Branded, like, oh, that's a huge buff. And frankly, all it goes into is me putting in Titanclad, point down Mercurier so I can run a single Mercurier, and then I have 20 points for non-engine. I'm just running 3 Droll, right? And like a single hand trap. And at that point, I don't need the extra 5 points. I think every deck needs about 15 points. And I'm at my max with all my engine. Not even running the rest of my engine. I'm having to run things like Alba System, Dogmatica, Calamity, which is like, not having Titanclad just like takes, it just like ruins the flow of the deck and the game plan. And obviously I think they talked specifically about the branded hits, which this wasn't out by the time that we talked about it. So what in the world happened to the branded extra deck? They don't even mention Mercurier here, by the way. The Fallen of the Virtuous was going to become a best in slot generic quick play removal spell if we didn't cost them both in the extra deck monsters to get you another copy of it. The numbers probably looked intimidating for all you branded fans. I'm sure that branded based strategies are still viable even if they don't look like the branded decks you're familiar with. I mean, they look the exact same, except you just took away options and gave us Lubellion. And yeah, there's builds that aren't running Branded Fusion, but guess what? Those aren't viable. At least until Burst Protocol, right? And here, Konami also acknowledges they watch my videos. We're already seeing strategy guides being posted for the new points adjustment on how to make the deck still work. As always, we'll keep a close eye on this. This was released like 2 days after my video, and there's no other videos on YouTube about Branded in Genesys. So, hi, Konami. Appreciate you guys. Love you guys. You guys make my favorite game. Fallen in the Virtuous is the whole issue. You don't ruin a whole deck over the one card, right? Like, once again, great change giving us back Lubellion. But you also took away the rest of the Albions and pointed the deck up. So, like, you just can't run. You shouldn't have pointed the deck up, right? Like, Albion should have been, or at least, like, point down Branded Fusion more at that point, frankly. And they might be worried about Branded Fusion at that point. It's like you're still like make it so you can't really run 2, but like yeah, the card shouldn't be 40 once again. Like we're showing off, the card literally ends on 1 interruption with a pure branded deck. 1 interruption, that's all it ends on. Like, I mean, you can do the tragedy line, I suppose, if you hard open branded fusion, but good luck doing the one of, right? If you have an Aluber, you're ending on a single interruption, and that's not very good. So branded fusion just like being 40 is absolutely absurd in my opinion. Like, so yeah, no, I think if they just did any of the changes I mentioned, point down Mercurier, point down Timeclad, if anything, or just at, like, I literally just think pointing down Fusion and Albion and then removing the points from Mercurier makes the deck infinitely more playable. It makes it where it's like fun, and it lets people buy the structure decks and get into your new format with just $60, right? So we'll see what happens the next points adjustment list. I'm not playing the format until something happens with the deck. I'm gonna keep hosting our Mercurier monthlies, but you know, I was basically making new videos on this format every week. Now I'm not. Like, they made the deck just the format's currently not fun between a lot of like the D-fissure stuff that was going on at the beginning of the format at the very least, and top end being so good, and my deck just, you know, branded basically being unplayable into these decks. Like, branded just loses the matchup every single time into the A and S tier decks, essentially. Like, you have no way of breaking these boards. You have no way of in going first. You can very easily get hand trapped out of existence, or they can just board break you. So it's just basically unplayable on some level, and some of these B tier decks it just straight up struggles with. There's a better way to do this without ruining the deck. So that's my long video on Genesys branded. I hope we can get back to making Genesys content more. Obviously, once again, first Saturday every month, Mercurier monthly free entry plus prizing, streamed on my channel. Very fun event and good way to get free prizing and show off your skills on stream. So, but I'll be making a lot more content if they just like literally just give the deck back like 15 or 20 points. That's all that needs to happen. So, and then I'll be the biggest Genesys simp ever, Konami. And once again, there's a lot of different reasons to do this between the new structure decks and just where the deck was. The deck didn't need to get adjusted. Where like it had one top, and you guys might have done internal testing with the new support. Guess what? Put the Fallen of the White to 40. Like, I don't care. Like, you don't make the deck unplayable for the 2 months before Burst Protocol because of new support on the horizon, right? That's just silly in my opinion. And the deck wasn't. You really had to know your shit on the deck. It's just like any good Genesys deck, like on some level that doesn't run. I don't know. That's where we're gonna end it. Comment down below if you guys want what you guys thought of this video. Also pick up my spreadsheet on my website if you guys want to help support the channel. Click the join button. Subscribe today. That we are on the road to 20,000 subscribers. If you guys want to keep seeing Genesys content, if you guys want to see me lose going second into all the top decks, I can post some replays. But yeah, guys, we'll be talking to you later. MagGamesGX signing out. Bye now.